Hi, welcome to another Lawn Fawn video. I'm Kara, and today we're going to help pull a little mouse out of a jam. And so we're using Berry Special, How You Bend Strawberries Add-on, Dandy Day, Happy Hugs, the branch from A Bug Deal, a stick from S'more the Merrier, a leaf from Toucan Do It, the How You Bend jar, sentiments from Simply Summer Sentiments that go with this stamp set. Punny sayings for that, but I'm just going to use a few words in there. Henry's ABCs, the Let's Toast Pull Tab add-on, and large stitched rectangles. I have the largest of the large stitched rectangles in my Misty and some jet black ink, and I am inking up my strawberries for the background. They are going to be on the background, but they're actually going to be in a jar. So I'm covering them up now with a full stick Post-it note and adding the strip of strawberries from Berry Special behind it. So anything you want in the front that stamped first, then you mask it and then put on what you want in the background. I'm kind of splitting this up so that you can see it on both sides. I'll mask that as well because I want to ink blend the background. I have the Grassy stencil and some Mowed Lawn Distress Oxide and a blending brush. I'm just going to go right over the top of my masks to give us a background of grass. And once I have that blended enough, then I just need to pull it down exactly the same. There's grid lines on the side, so it's easy to follow where my grasses kind of line up. And now I'm using Salvage Patina Distress Oxide for the sky. I'm going a little ways up, and then I'm going to bring in the cloudy stencil and add some clouds in that sky. I come back and fill in some of the base of that again, and now one more layer of clouds and we're all set. So this is the background. Take off those masks and that's the background all prepped and ready to go. And the next thing I want to do is stamp out, see those strawberries, they have the ability to have smiley faces in them or seeds. I'm just doing seeds. You're really not going to see them very well because they're going to be in jam. And so I just wanted to get some seeds on there. And now I can stamp up the rest of the items that are going to be on my card. And actually going to put in a few more. So a few more strawberries, add some more seeds and another branch. And then some of the little leaves. Now these, I know my branch and my leaves are from two different sets. You don't have to do that, but I wanted the branch from A Bug Deal. And those leaves are big because they're in perspective of the bugs, but our mice would be about the same size as those leaves, and so wanted some smaller leaves on here. All right, so that's all set and ready to go, and the last thing to set up is my jam-ram. Yeah, no, it's jam, here I am. It's the letters for that, but starting with some worn lipstick distress oxides, and I have them on a piece of painter's tape so the sticky side is up, but then I put a piece sticky side down to kind of keep that stuck to my glass mat, and that way it won't move. Okay, now this is the candied apple coming next, and then I'm going to finish it up with a little bit of aged mahogany just at the bottom, just to give it a little more depth. A little darker at the bottom there. So they're kind of just mirroring the strawberries. And so I'm doing the same thing with my Copic markers on the strawberries, starting with an R22 at the top of the strawberries. Then I'll come in with an R27 at the bottom of the strawberries and fill it in the middle with an R24, kind of just blending it in that way. I don't have to worry too much about them being perfectly blended because they'll, like I said before, they'll be in the jam. I would like them to show up in that jam though, so I'm defining them a little bit, giving them shadow with an R89, give them that dark look, and I'm blending that in just a little bit with an R24. I'm coloring all the stems and leaves with a G05 and a G09, and my darker shade, my drama shade, is the G29. The branches will be E21, and I'll put in some lines of E25 and E29, and then I'm going to color back over those lines with that E21 again, just to blend that texture in, make it look like it's part of the branch. Let's zoom in now and color our little mouse, and he's going to be cool grays, starting with a C2 just to get his shadows in there. And I'm starting darker than I usually do with a shadow. I usually go really light so that I'm happy with it, but I think I've colored enough of these cute little mice that I sort of know where I'm going to put these shadows. So that was a C4, coming back in and blending that in with the C2, blending them out a little further with the C0, and then once I'm happy with how he's shaded, I'm going to come in with that R22 for his nose and cheeks and ear, and then blend that a little bit in with the C0 just to diffuse that color a bit in his cheek and his ear. And now for the drama, right? I come in with something a little darker. This is a C6 just to add in the darkest of those shadows. Now, last time I colored this guy with the blue jean overalls, and this time he's got the green jean overalls. Just a nod to Mr. Green Jeans from Captain Kangaroo. I think I said that last time, that that's how I was going to color this guy next time I colored him. And so he's got the same colors that are in the leaves and stems. And so thank you, Mr. Hugh Branham, for giving us many years of Mr. Green Jeans on television. All right, that's my tribute there. You know, that show ran for 29 years, and yeah, when it started, it was black and white, so I just think the whole thing with Mr. Green Jeans probably was lost on kids, but by the time I was watching, it was in color, so I knew full well why he was called Mr. Green Jeans. I'm sure they figured that out as well. Okay, I digress. Here we come in with the coordinating dies, and I have the shaker die add-on for the jar, and that's what I'm going to use there. I will color that one later. Now I have them all cut out, and I want to arrange where everything is going to go on the card. Right now, mainly to figure out how to put the two mice together in order to get their mechanism in the right place. So I'm cutting off the top of that dandelion head, and I'm leaving a little bit there so that I have something to work with. I'm going to be putting a brad in that area. And so I also have that marshmallow stick, so I've got to kind of cut that marshmallow down a bit, leaving some space again, a little bulk to add the brad in that area as well. So this is really going to act as two sticks kind of attached together, or maybe more like a fishing pole or something where he's fishing them out. I want to make sure that the word jam will fit up there. I know that will, but will the first part of the sentiment fit above that, which is if you're ever in a jam? And that'll be finished off inside with here I am. All right, so I've got a thick piece of foam and an embroidery needle to create a hole, and then stuck the brad in there, folded out the prongs, and there it is. It's moving freely. I'll cut a little bit extra off that doesn't need to be on there, and then I'm going to take it out of the brad and color around the different areas, the lines, the black lines for the marshmallow and the parts of that dandelion head, so that you don't see those lines anymore. Ta-da, they're gone. That's a That's a quick fix for most things. When you don't want a line, just add a little white gel pen. All right, Brad's back in, and it's time to add the stick to the mouse. And so again, with that needle, I'll poke it through the stick and his arm, and now we have a way for him to move it up and down as the mechanism goes up and down. So the pull tab. And this way, both parts will be movable. So I'm ready to add the pull tab now. And there's that main mechanism and the part that keeps it braced to the back. And then the two pieces that are going to cut my base of the card and figure out where I want that upper piece. That's where the little tab is going to show, right over the jar. That's where I want it. And the little piece that's going to cut a slit in the card, I want that right under it. There I did. I ran it through my die cut machine and it's all ready to have the mechanism put in place. I like to cut this piece out of a thicker cardstock, and now I am folding it. It's like a Z fold, so fold it in and then fold it out, and there it makes the place where you would put that piece of toast for the Let's Toast, because that's what it was designed for. I feed that through that slit, and now I want to make sure that it can go into the jar. So I am cutting a slit along that line that indicates the opening of the jar, and I'm going to add a cut at the back of the jar so that it can wrap around that mechanism. I'm gonna cut a little bit extra just so that there's room for that to move freely. Frankly, I cut a little bit too much. I got a little zealous there, but I fixed that in the end. We'll see it. Now, you can see it could go out, but it would be stuck if it was just going back in. So we'll fix that by raising up the front of the jar. All right, I'm kind of determining where that mouse is going to sit. I want him to cover up that slit as best he can so we don't see that. And it's time to glue him onto the mechanism. Cut away the excess of the base, and now let's check how he's moving. I want to make sure that they're positioned so that it doesn't buckle too much, that the little pole that he's on, the one that came from the dandelion. And that helps me figure out where to add my branch, and then I can glue on little Mr. Green Jeans. All right, put him on the branch and add the letters and the extra branches. I'll put those on, and I wanted to keep the jar around while I was putting those on so that I could see where I want things so they don't inhibit the movement or get in the way of that jar. Adding those leaves onto the branches, and so it's a nice spring day, maybe even, well, whenever strawberries come around your area. They come around my area in June, so I suppose it's June here on this card. But anyway, snipping off the branches, and that's easiest to do from the back side of the card so that you have a kind of a line to go on as a guide for cutting. Bringing that pull tab mechanism all the way down to the bottom and then snipping that off at the top as well. And now I'm adding that little stabilizer onto the back of my card. So folding that and adding adhesive so it will adhere to the back of the card, and it will also close but not touch the mechanism. It's the pull tab itself. So I don't want that to stick. Now it's time to make our jam. So I have a piece of acetate that I cut from one of the dies in the How You Been shaker add-on. I have Lawnfawn's lobster ink and clear stencil paste, and I'm going to mix those two together And until they kind of just give me the color that I'm looking for. I can add more paste, add more ink. It's just a matter of what works. And I'm pretty happy with this. It looks like jam to me. So I'm figuring out how high up in the jar I want it to go. Kind of gave myself a line there, and then I'm just going to spread it down from there. And at first, I have a fairly thin layer. I wasn't sure how thick I could go where you could still see the strawberries, but then I thicken it up because I really want the look of jam. I want somebody to look at this and say, "Oh, look at that! It's a jar of jam, strawberry jam." And once I have this kind of to the degree that I want, and I didn't want it to be smooth, I wanted some texture to it. Well, I colored my jar, and I used that R22 that I used on the strawberries, and I also used BG, mostly 11, but the teens, the BG teens. And now I'm using Lawn Fawn's clear glaze to give the shine to the rest of the jar. So we have it in the acetate and jam, but now the jar has it as well. What I like about this clear glaze is that it's rather thick, so I can move it around, spread it around with my finger, and it really gives a nice coat. All right, I glued that onto the acetate, so my jar is set to go. And now I just want to raise it up so that the mouse can freely go in and out of it. I cut 2 pieces of craft foam using the How You Been shaker add-on die, and I'm adding some 1/8" tape so that I can put them together. Originally, I tried glue, but my glue didn't work. I think the foam was soaking it up too much, so I put in the 1/8" tape. That worked great. And I cut off the very top of the jar as well. But you'll see, I need to cut off the entire top of the jar. Of course, how else is that mouse going to get in there? But I'll figure that out soon as I put him on there and he doesn't somehow go in there. I don't know. Well, that was easy enough to fix. Just clip off the top of the jar and another crisis averted. All right, well, let's see how this works now. So I'm going to put the back of the jar behind him and the front. Yes, he can go right in and out of that jar. So I can add some 1/8" double-sided tape to the jar, except for the top. And I'll put some glue on the top parts that are going to adhere to the base of the card. So it works great. Let's check that out. But I do notice that I have a little gap where I took a little too much off of the back of the jar. Well, I found a little piece of it that snipped off and was at the side of my desk. So I just colored it and glued it on, and it's fine. It works. Now to embellish with the rest of the strawberries to sort of fill out the bottom of the scene, give it a little bit more of that strawberry feel. You can see those strawberries in the jam. I was really happy about that. So you know what that is. And now here is the decorative piece for the pull tab. And I ink blended that just the same way as I did the letters. So all I need to do is put a little glue on the back and front of that and pinch it around the top of the mechanism. I still had the piece that was cut out of the top, and so I cut that with that same die, and so I have the arrow that perfectly matches my sky. How nice is that? All right, now time for the rest of that sentiment. I usually like to find words that are in the same set because I know that they're all going to match, but a lot of the fonts are similar in the Lawn Fawn set, so it's easy to mix and match. But for some reason, Simply Summer Sentiments had everything I needed in it. So I just cut apart different things, different sayings. And so I have the in-a, and then your, that came on its own in there. And the end of another sentiment was ever, which is exactly what I needed. The only thing I didn't have was if, but all I do is find an F at the end or beginning of a word, and so yourself had the F in it for me. So I just touch the last letter, make sure I don't have any on the letter before it, and stamp that down. And then I found an I on the inna that I had used earlier, and just put that on the edge of the ink pad as well. And there's my I. If you're ever in a jam. Taking that from the lyrics from Cole Porter's song Friendship from 1934. Yeah, just a few years ago, I guess. But oh, it's a classic, Cole Porter, right? So I am adding the notch to the card base as well. That way it's easier to pull up that pull tab, adding some adhesive to the back of this panel and onto that little stabilizer there. I didn't need to pop this up on foam tape or anything because that mechanism's going to work as long as there isn't any adhesive getting in its way. And there it is, working. Now to finish out the sentiment, I decided to stamp out and color up the mice from Happy Hugs. I thought that was kind of a good ending to this card, and then arrange the letters, and I'm just going to glue them on. So this card is all finished. We've got our little mouse, Mr. Green Jeans, helping his friend out of a jam. And there we are. They're hugging on the inside. I hope you enjoyed the video today and it inspired you to maybe help someone out of a jam, or maybe just make a pull tab card using the new How You Been Strawberries add-on. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye!